So, on an episode of Young and the Restless, you will see Phyllis actually telling Billy that she has truly given up on her long-standing revenge fixation against Sharon. I know, it's a shock to us all. She actually tells him that she now wants to focus on the Newman revenge plan, which is to basically team up with him and get Chancellor Industries back from Victor and Nikki. Like that was ever really going to work, right? And she says she's only going to help him with this plan on one condition. She wants her son, Daniel, to have a major role at Chancellor when they finally get it back. Because of course she does. Easy peasy, right? Well, if you've been watching soaps for even a minute, you know that easy peasy is never actually easy. And things are about to get turned on their ear. Almost immediately after that convo, Summer Newman shows up with a huge and unbelievably terrifying update. Sharon has been completely missing since New Year's Day. She just up and vanished like a puff of smoke. And here's the thing, Phyllis is completely unconcerned by the news, and she actually thinks that Sharon has just flaked out and run off, like she's done in the past. Which, to be fair, if you've been watching the show for more than a few years, you know she actually has done. She's run off to New Orleans before, she's run off to all sorts of different places, so she is no stranger to just disappearing. And in fact, Phyllis actually thinks that Sharon is probably on some beach somewhere, where there's absolutely no extradition for, things like murder and other assorted crimes. But Summer, of course, insists that this situation is incredibly bad and that everybody, and I mean everybody, is seriously worried about Sharon because of course they are. And since Billy was still there at Society, hanging out and talking with Phyllis, he also decides to chime in on the situation. And his assessment is that it's pretty dodgy timing that Sharon decided to go missing, just as Phyllis was saying. And these are her exact words. Yeah, I'm going to chill out and let things go. And that she's not going to focus on Sharon anymore. Come on, Billy. You really do have a point there. And then Billy, bless his heart, very point blank asks Phyllis if she knows anything about what happened to Sharon. It's a fair question, isn't it? And guess what? Phyllis absolutely does not like that one little bit. She's ready to explode at him for even suggesting it. She actually admits that, yeah, she definitely wanted Sharon to face justice for what she did, but insists, and she is vehement about it, that her going missing is in no way, shape, or form Phyllis's fault. She's very insistent about that, and is basically trying to make everyone believe that she has zero responsibility in this situation. So Billy, like any sensible person, decides to back off, apologize for even implying that Phyllis was out there doing some kind of vigilante Batman justice on Sharon, and then Phyllis proceeds to launch into a rant with Summer about how people always suspect her of things, always thinking the absolute worst of her, and then her own daughter, Summer, has to be the voice of reason for a moment and remind Phyllis that, you've literally been ranting like a lunatic about Sharon for months. And most of the entire town of Genoa City has heard you making all sorts of threats, so what is anyone supposed to think? And of course, Summer doesn't want to think that her own mother is actually capable of doing something terrible to Sharon, but you have to admit that this is pretty bad optics for Phyllis. She doesn't like that Summer even considered for even a moment that she might have actually done this, so of course she denies it. And then Phyllis goes on to say that if something terrible happened to Sharon, well, that's just karma coming for her. That is not great, Red. I know you're angry, but seriously, that is just bad optics too, because it makes her seem so unsympathetic and completely unconcerned with what has happened to Sharon. Phyllis remains completely convinced that Sharon actually killed Heather and framed Daniel, despite all of Sharon's constant and persistent claims that the hypnosis revealed that somebody else was in the apartment that night. And Phyllis also demands that Summer needs to remember all the horrible things that Sharon has done in the past, so she doesn't forget that she's not an angel. And while Phyllis is carrying on this conversation with Billy and Summer, by the way, there is a very important and pretty frightening phone call happening across town. Chance, bless his heart, calls Nick Newman and tells him that they have dredged Sharon's car out of the river. Her body wasn't in it, thankfully, but it went over the bridge, right near where she had dumped Heather Stevens' body. Now, as the viewers all know, Phyllis didn't actually do anything to Sharon other than make a whole lot of threats, rant and rave, and be a serious aggravator, but that's about it. All of this is actually Ian Ward's plan all along, and here is where things get really twisted and complicated, as if it wasn't already. What's really interesting is that Jordan went ahead and drove Sharon's car off the bridge, but then, after doing that, she went ahead and hid Sharon down in the sewer, where she's locked up in chains. So I'm suspecting that Jordan actually went ahead and drove that car off the bridge because she thinks it's going to make Ian think that she actually followed his orders, which were to send Sharon to a quote, watery grave. And that's exactly what he wanted for Sharon. And let's be honest, Jordan may still actually put her in that watery grave, but for now, she's got Sharon as a secret, hidden bargaining chip, just in case Ian doesn't actually follow through and target Claire soon, like he has promised her. So here's what I'm suspecting is coming next for Phyllis, and I mean, we're definitely going to see her before then, but by Friday's episode, Jordan again goes rogue on Ian. And this time, I think that Phyllis is actually the one that Jordan gets hold of and kidnaps, because let's be real, you never know with Jordan. Ian is actually expecting to hear that Jordan set up Phyllis to make it look like she actually ran Sharon's car off the bridge. And there's a whole lot of ways you can do that. You know, you can do some paint scrapes against Phyllis's car, some paint scrapes on Sharon's SUV, just so that Ian can see Phyllis arrested, and then tie up all those loose ends for him. But on Friday, I absolutely suspect, and I mean I'm almost certain about this, that Jordan is actually going to snatch Phyllis and stash her down in the sewer in a matching set of chains right alongside Sharon. And at that point, Jordan could actually turn around and drive Phyllis's car off the bridge too. I mean, she could do that whether that's what Ian actually told her to do or not, just because she wants to add more chaos. So that it would look like Phyllis actually hit Sharon's car, lost control of her own car, and then they both went careening off the bridge. It will look like one of those terrible accidents caused by rage and anger, and then the cops will actually be looking for two bodies instead of just one. So you see, there are a whole lot of ways this can go, and if Jordan stashes both the women away, then, she can always come back later, drug them both, and then toss them into the river so they'll both drown and their bodies will eventually be found. I mean, that way Ian still gets his frame job, he still gets what he wants, and with both of them dead, then Phyllis can't even defend herself against his accusations, and, it will kind of be the perfect golden frame job. And if Ian does not do what Jordan wants and doesn't target Claire, then she can turn around and blackmail Ian and tell him that she's got both the woman he wants dead, Sharon, and the woman he wants to blame, Phyllis, both hidden away where he can't find them.